Welcome to Insights with Ovationz, where we love to showcase our talents and subject matter experts that we have on our platform that you can bring into your organizations and your events. Today, I am joined with Ellin Sidell. Now, Ellin is a leadership coach and mentor. She focuses on unlocking human potential and helping her clients thrive. She has a passion for working with executives and managers, helping them prepare themselves for further growth and impact as they climb the rungs of their careers. There's a lot of places we're going to go today, Ellin. I'm excited to talk with you, and I want to start by saying welcome.
Oh, thank you.
So one of the things that I found when I was doing a little bit of research on you for our interview here is that on your LinkedIn, your first thing in your description is your core values. And I am a big advocate of people really understanding, embracing their core values and staying in integrity, structural integrity in everything they do, to where their core values are kind of those touch points or those anchor points to everything they do. So just to read them back to you, I would love to have you share on that and why you have that first and how that plays into what you do. But we have wisdom, integrity, continuous learning, resiliency, continuous improvement, influence, and service to others. So I'm going to hand the mic to you, and I would love to hear, one, why that's the first thing on there, and two, what that means to you and why you have that at the forefront.
Wow. Well, I hope it's okay for you and your audience for me to be a little bit of a storyteller.
Please, please.
I find that the story will kind of tie a lot of that into it. So I won a cancer contest.
Okay. This is new.
And you're like, what is a cancer contest? So I'll tie it all together. So it turns out that back in the day, this is probably 2010, in the Seattle market, a couple of the hospitals and then Como TV put out there that people who have gone through cancer could enter into a little video contest. And I won second prize, and I teased people that some people get 15 minutes of fame. I had 30 seconds because I cut an ad that was, early detection saved my life, which was true. And it's crazy how you have to distill and work really hard. Maybe you know this from your music background, to get a message into 30 seconds or a song, as opposed to a big long book or something. So, but it was really a huge culmination of me overcoming a lot of limiting beliefs that I'd had, while I'd been in management over my very successful Fortune 500 career. I had a mentor that helped me see that overcoming, this very severe embarrassment that I had when I was a kid and not using my voice was holding me back in life. And so this whole idea of, wisdom, resiliency, because I had cancer 3 times, caught it early. It's all wrapped up into one whole cloth of, if I can be a mentor to someone else, or if I can hold the space for someone else and have them see my belief in them reflected back in their eyes, so that, maybe they borrow my belief. I borrowed lots of people's belief in me over the years. And so, my core values are really at the core of everything that I do. I left a very lucrative 6-figure job, to, build a business from scratch, if you will. And so it's a very wonderful thing for me to be able to help people. That's really the reward at the end of the day. And so I'm a continuous learner. I'm always learning everything. I'm getting new certifications. And so I did cut the little ad, and it was shown in the Seattle market on Dr. Oz and the doctors. There's about 80,000 people there, but it was really such a breakthrough for me because I was using my voice again. I was helping myself and others live into their potential. And really the resilience part is, the story of my childhood kind of situation was that, that embarrassment held me back, and my mentor helped me reframe and say, hey, but you overcame all those challenges. And wasn't that the seeds of your resiliency that helped you overcome cancer? And so reframing is so powerful. I'm sure you know that in your everyday conversations with people. And so that was a little bit of a long story, but hopefully it wraps it up for you.
No, that is an excellent way to frame it, actually. And I firmly believe that everything in life happens for us, and there's gifts that were presented that a lot of times people don't unwrap them. as they come along, and they'll be presented again. And the fact that you pointed towards mentorship, I think, is important. We need people who can see through our fog and see through what we're dealing with from an outside objective perspective. So I think that's a pretty amazing. And you also branched into some other things I want to talk about. I have a knowing, I don't call it a belief, it's a knowing that I have been speaking on and like shouting from the mountaintops, whether it's in corporations or from stages and whatnot, that personal and professional are not separate. And you bridged a lot of that just now, but I'd love to hear a little more about your background. Meaning, I know we have, from my understanding, you had a 35-year corporate career, and now you're doing what you're doing. So what led to you leaving behind a corporate career, maybe what people would call security, right? And call something that they felt safe in and probably had some sort of an identity in, where you actually were able to shift into a newer identity that was maybe more authentic to you and more in line with your core values. So a little more of that story, if we could.
Of course. Yeah. Well, so my last corporate role lasted almost 9 years. I worked at Costco. And before that, I was 16 years at Microsoft, and I've been around a while. So I won't go my whole resume. But when I was at Costco, I was hired into IT. I was about 2 years into my stint. And I'm kind of a workhorse. You know, if you can manage 16 years at Microsoft, you're a workhorse. And so I was, like, wow, what else can I do? How can I add value? And because I'm, a continuous learner and always like surveying the landscape, I realized that there was underserving mentorship, a need in corporate. This is corporate Costco. Mm-hmm. There was more people that wanted to be mentored than the current programs. And, Costco, if you're a member, one of the great things about Costco is their SG&A is the lowest in the business. It's about 10%. And so, everything that you make, that Costco makes is, on the renewals of the, memberships. And so, they're very lean. And so that meant there was also an opportunity for me to jump in and volunteer to do something. And when I'd been at Microsoft, I had been part of a really cool mentorship type of format, which was kind of like circles. And so I am a little bit like a dog with a bone. And I knew the VP, and I kept like following her around. I'm like, don't you want to say yes to those people you have to say no to? Kind of like internal salesperson. And it's not the elevator pitch, it's the salad bar line, because I finally got her getting more tomatoes. And I'm like, my program that I want to run completely voluntarily will be complimentary. You'll serve more people. Finally, she's like, okay, fine, I'll do a pilot. So the last 5 years being at Costco, I ran as kind of a labor of love, if you will. Mm-hmm. A leverage mentorship program that got recognized by Craig, our CEO at the time, which was very exciting. And I, my soul came in alive. I'm an IT and supply chain person. I'm like a process optimization person, but I've always loved this idea of collaborating and, kind of like, this idea of peer learning, but in an environment with senior execs, kind of like pouring into you, teaching you the culture, helping you see, only the things they can see at their level. And so, we had over 200 people graduate after 5 years. And I thought, this is what I want to do. I don't want to wait for some number to be, where the retirement age, if you will. And so my husband and I sold our house in Washington State and moved to Florida. And I'm, creating my business right now. And the seed of it was about this idea of, mentoring, and it's branching out now to include, fostering human-centered process improvement and innovation. And that can come across the areas that I have a really strong background in, which would be supply chain and manufacturing and a whole bunch of other things. But it can also touch upon, engagement type programs where, and I've done a lot of research, the younger generations in companies just expect mentorship to be part of every day, how they do their job. And so there's a lot of underserved needs in the areas of mentorship. And, I'd love to see how I can help others with that.
I completely agree. One of the organizations we're working with right now is a university, and they're asking for us to come up with some of this like extra curriculum for their close soon to be graduating seniors to prepare them like in real life. Like some of them are also like, they need to learn soft skills. They need to learn things that come with experience. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that about you. I'm going to note that stuff for some of the panels and some of the speaking engagements I'm curating. I think you'd fit in perfectly for that. I think it is really interesting, and I think extremely valuable that we could say your first iteration of the Sidell method of what you're doing now was created in a corporate setting. And so you took it, you literally didn't create something and try to go into corporate with it. You actually created it from that purview. And I think that, especially saying that you're logistics and supply chain, I'm like, wow. So you're actually working at the logistics and supply chain of the human now, right? Right? Is that a safe way?
I kind of like that, Aaron. Yeah, we'll go with it.
I'm such a creative that I can see the essence of things transfer into the imagery of things, where most people will silo things. I'm like, no, this is this. Like, so you saying that's really, really intriguing to me. And I look forward to when we have more time off the air here, because we have a limited time, to dive into that a little bit more with you. Now, another thing that I pulled off when I was reading that I thought was very important, you talked about all the things that you do, and I've referenced some of these about helping, the executives, professionals, and managers to really thrive and understand and what the challenges are going to be and prepare themselves for their growth and the corporate, climbing that ladder of their careers. But one thing you said stood out that I think is extremely important, probably foundationally important from my perspective, but you say that through what you do, you help others gain increased meaning in the work they pursue. That's a different angle. Can you speak towards that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know how they say sometimes, the wounded healer become, of themselves, help others. And so it was like a search for meaning in my career. And what ended up happening was service to others became meaningful to me. Being someone else's mentor after someone poured into me, helping teach someone a new role, helping just listen and not saying anything, which is actually kind of hard for me. But anyway. But yeah, the meaning it's an internal job. I have this motto. I don't know if it's going to fit the new realm of where I'm going in corporate around process improvement, but don't find yourself, define yourself, and go beyond. That's a process. And the middle part, find yourself, isn't like I am fill in the blank, because any NLP expert out there would tell you don't do that. Mm-hmm. However, you can define your character. You can define who you want to be. You can define your core values. You can imagine, yourself continuously growing and learning and unfolding. And so that's what that means. And from that comes the meaning, if that makes sense. Because if you don't have the passion, if you haven't put a stake in the ground, then how are you going to feel the benefit of achieving it or going after it? I mean, we don't want to only feel meaning when we're achieving it. The school of hard knocks, we need to give our credit for the hard knocks and for being in the arena, like Teddy Roosevelt's, that's my loving, most favorite quote of all times, be in the arena of life, go after what you're passionate. So hopefully that gives some background.
No, I actually love that. And it's actually unfolding. It's unfolding for me more in my mind. And I want to ask you a couple questions to see if I'm on the right track with it. In my work too, with corporations and working with management teams, working with C-suite executives and whatnot, and literally helping them kind of bridge that internal and that external, the mind, and literally a holistic approach towards their lives, towards their business, towards their relationships, including their relationship with their work. You know what I mean? So it's not just relationships when I mean on the traditional between people, but relationships with everything. It sounds like through what you do, you help integrate that. You help bring those things together. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I have to tell you this will be a quicker story than my first one. But while I was at Microsoft searching, because I'll just back up. I had a really life-changing thing that happened. And that was besides cancer 3 times. And that was my first husband died of pancreatic cancer in his mid-40s. Oh, wow. And so I was like, what? And a lot of the sort of rites of passage or the different phases that people go in lives, thinking about spiritual things. I just never did, because I was heads down, and, going through school and then going through college and then getting married and then buying a house and having kids and working in corporations throughout, my career. And so I had to stop and go, whoa, what is happening? Well, part of my process, besides going a whole grief journey, which we won't have time to get to, but part of that process was realizing I needed to tap into a creative side of myself. And so I went and I got a hypnotherapy training, opened up or bought a business in a box. This is where I found one of my really important mentors. And I was around all these people in Seattle who are like energy workers or, hands-on massage therapists in, hypnotherapy training. And then there's Ellin from Microsoft. So it was like a whole new world, but I loved it. And it opened up this whole intuitive side of me that I just wasn't tapping into because I was so right brain. Well, we have to be logical. I mean, but and I think you're going to love this because of your approach. I'm kind of sensing the flow and the tapping in. Like we have knowing that defies a formula. And then every once in a while, when you lean into it, it just opens up even more. And so I'm hardly remembering your question, but I wanted to let you know about the hypnotherapy because I don't know who coined this phrase, but it's like maybe we're using 10% of our brain or our capacity. Well, the other 90%, if that's even a real number, is the subconscious. And so how can we, and those are the programs that run us automatically, thank goodness, so we can breathe, et cetera. How can we work through and become even more aware of some of those programs that are limiting, that are our giftedness that we're not fully tapping into? And so I'm all about this holistic approach. Now, will I have this level of conversation in corporate? Probably not. But the premise will be the same. Like we have richness and giftedness in our subconscious that we need to unleash. And that's where our potential is, along with, continuing to learn and grow.
I want to pinpoint that statement. Well, I have this level of conversation that corporate, probably not. What that tells me is you understand the path and you can meet people where they're at. Because a lot of times I'll have these higher level conversations and then people they're intrigued, but I'm like, go back and listen again. Go back and listen again. You know what I mean? So it opens you up a little bit further. So I love that you said that. And I'm going to step back to the core values for a second. I look for what's called structural integrity in people, meaning what they say and what they do and what they think all speaks the same message. And literally everything you've been saying is speaking towards for yourself and what you want to bring to the world: continuous learning, continuous improvement, influence, service to others, like literally those core values. So I love that we started with that because everything you've been saying is along those lines. Now, let's move this into more corporate. Let's make it a little more relatable. Yeah. And let's talk about, one of the things that we're doing at Ovationz is we're bringing in live, what you could say is mixing like a TED Talk and a masterclass, a live session where we have subject matter experts like yourself come into organizations and drop into a weekly meeting and do a short form talk with a Q&A where you can actually make it specialized and unique based on how you answer the questions around it, right? We're finding a lot of traction with this, and a lot of companies are really enjoying this. They're getting these small bites, but they're also having the time to integrate and take action. I know one of the talks that I read that we have for you is called it's Leverage Mentorship to Grow Employee Engagement. Can you speak towards that topic? Yeah,
well, that is the I want to talk about what worked at Costco corporate, because that was a program that grew, over 5 years. I mean, between the pilot and the first year, we had over 350% increased engagement. And that was mostly word of mouth. Because the people that were in it were like, this is so cool, and it was sort of a leadership program in disguise, if you will, because the mentees chose the soft skills. You talked about soft skills, or sometimes transferable skills, but they chose what it was they wanted to work on. And I kind of challenged them in the beginning to think, well, where are you in your career, and how are those skills that you want to build going to get you to the next rung in your career ladder? And remember, everybody's career ladder is different. And I even look at a meaning-based career ladder, not just like, more money or a bigger title, although that could be legitimate. And I even said, you guys as mentees are here to build the ladder together. Like, isn't that powerful? Like, let's understand, where we want to build our soft skills. Let's build these together, because there's nothing like preparing for one of those little presentations or a new topic that you've chosen. There's nothing like being the teacher for really learning the information. Like people bone up, and we had amazing presentations. In fact, we had a couple like really powerful like testimonials where one lady did a presentation. She invited her boss and her VP. Her VP and boss loved it and said, "Will you please come to our all hands?" So like just the richness of more visibility for people who have done, really good work and want to share their learnings. And so that's what I would hope, to be able to share in some of those, opportunities. And the whole idea of leverage mentorship. We know regular one-on-one mentorship doesn't scale. Well, there's an answer for that. Let's have the senior executives pour into us from a culture perspective, because culture eats strategy for breakfast. We know that. And then let's understand those rich stories that they have because they've been at their companies for a while, and they can talk about, walk the talk, right? This is what the culture stands for. And this is the story that supports it. And then the mentees are, in that environment. Many, many companies say they have an open door policy, but leverage mentorship program will prove it to them.
We're at time, and I really, really think we need to stop there. Honestly, what you just said and how you just said it is beautiful. And I really want to pinpoint, I always say this at the end. I always recommend people go back and listen. We keep these 20 minutes or so you can go back and listen again. Go back and listen to things in context and complete context of the entire talk. And again, I'm Aaron Ellis. This has been Insights with Ovationz. We've been talking with Ellin today. If you want to know more about her, you can head over to ovationz.com. And I want to finalize my thought on that. If you're looking for an expert to come into your organization who's truly collaborative and cooperative and makes her teachings and learnings unique to you so your company can thrive, Ellin is the one to reach out to. Thank you very much, Ellin.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Aaron.
See you next time.